Good morning from Bastia, Corsica. It's 6:30 AM and I'm ready for the next stage of my big Europe adventure. Waving goodbye to Napoleon over there as he stands watch over the town. I pass the building of the Chambre de Commerce, beautifully illuminated in the dark light. And there she is, my ferry for today, emerging from the darkness. I wonder which one she'll be. She's docked and waiting like a sleeping giant, bright yellow and towering above the harbour. There are not too many ports where you get to walk alongside a ferry before you board or even enter the terminal, so this is a unique opportunity to get a few photos. Now trying to find the terminal in the tired darkness of the morning. Slightly worried I'm getting lost. But oh yes, here it is, and let's head inside. I make it inside the terminal, and there's a bit of a wait to board. It's also eerily quiet in here. Sadly, no information is provided as to when boarding will commence. There are no shops or refreshment facilities in here at all. Anyhow, after waiting well over half an hour, possibly 40 minutes, I'm through, and my first proper glimpse at today's ship, the Mega Express 5. And with that, welcome to Carl's Travel Channel, where every journey costs less than £200. Please sit back, relax and enjoy the ride, and always remember the nearest exit may be behind you. I follow the marked route for foot passengers, which I must point out is all flat for anyone with accessibility issues. And continuing without stairs on one of these very Mediterranean ferry style escalators. Today, unfortunately, however, not all things are this plain sailing, and later on something goes badly wrong. One of the worst things so far in one of my travel adventures. Into the main passenger area of the ship, I decide to walk up the stairs here, however elevators are also provided should you wish to use them instead. I'm not sure why, it reminds me of a 1990s office block in here. A first quick look at the onboard deck plans, and I head through to the main passenger service and facilities areas, starting here with the games room, complete with a nice air hockey table, ideal for entertaining older adults. And for younger people, there's the soft play area here to the left, and the usual Corsica Sardinia Ferries shop, which, remember, as from my last video, it does not sell phone chargers, USB cables or power adapters. I then enter the ship's main cafe and bar, the Riviera Lounge. A warm cappuccino in hand, I settle in. The ship hasn't moved yet, but already the journey feels underway. There's something special about sipping a coffee just before leaving port. If you saw my second to last video aboard the Pascal Lotta, you'll recognise a lot of these names. Here is the Sweet Cafe. I would take this video really as more of a compare and contrast to the facilities on the Pascal Lotta, since they are all approximately the same, but this is a smaller vessel and definitely not as well equipped. Now, let's head up to the top deck and watch the departure. I can't wait for the view. Ah, here we go, I'm following the signs to the solarium. I love the humming noises of the vessel as you walk around inside. An advert for the Gusto pizza. I wonder if I will find that this time. And through a very unglamorous and almost hidden door, I finally make it outside. And, well, I can't say I'm too impressed. The entire area is surrounded by tall fences, over 6 foot. With another abandoned swimming pool in the middle. And yes, that music is coming from everywhere around the ship, over the loudspeakers. The glass, as you can see, is absolutely awful for photography and even to look through. The Lido Beach Bar is here, just like aboard the Pascal, and well, of course, it's all shuttered up and closed, exactly the same. Back inside, and now, where is that Gusto pizza? Is it down those stairs, or up here? The signage is awful. Ah, it looks like it's in here. Well, it is, but there is no signs of any life. And wow, look at this decor. Ah yes, there it is over there, devoid of all life. She was starting up and had not left the dock yet, and wow, what a racket from the engines. Though whilst it might not suit many, I quite like hearing the noise of the vessel roaring away. quick look at the scheduled sailing times for today. Scheduled to depart Bastia at 8 AM, arriving in Livorno at 1300. Right, ironically, no time for pizza now I found it, if it's even open, so I'm going to head back upstairs. At least there are some baby chairs provided here, should you need them. I don't know what that old bag is thrown down there on the floor. One more look at the deck plans here, and interesting to note, most of the cabins are down at the front end of the ship. Anyhow, this is the rear stern of the vessel, so let's take another walk upstairs to the solarium. Let's try and head out the left-hand side door this time, and hope I could get through. No, not there. Ah, phew. And the usual life belt and ship registration in Genoa, just like the rest of the fleet. And welcome aboard the Mega Express 5, a high-speed RoPax ferry which boasts a fascinating international history. Originally built in Japan in 2001 by the Mitsubishi Heavy Industry Shipyard in Shimonoseki, the vessel was first named Naminu and served under the Japanese company Arimura Sanyo. It was acquired by CORSICA Ferries in 2006, where it was rebranded to its current name, the Mega Express 5, becoming part of this iconic yellow fleet that connects France and Italy with the islands of Corsica and Sardinia. With a length of 172 metres and a gross tonnage of over 26,000, the ferry can carry around 2,000 passengers and over 550 vehicles. Known for its speed, it cruises at up to 27 knots, making it one of the faster vessels in their fleet. Over here is the Corsica linear vessel, the Pascal Paoli, which frequents the route from Marseille to Bastia. If you are flying into Marseille and not travelling overland from the UK like I did, this is definitely a good option, and maybe it's nicer on board, who knows? I'll have to try it out in another video. Gosh, these windows! Now I know what it feels like to be an animal exhibit in a zoo. That's possibly the pilot's boat there, following us behind. A final wave goodbye to the Pascal Paoli through these beautiful and clean panoramic windows. Now let's see what else I can find on board. Oh, there is another exit sign here. I wonder if this is an emergency door, or you could go out. Well, it says open, so, oh, here we go. And there is even more music out here. Ah, and this is absolutely typical. After leaving the beauty of the port behind, I find an area here with no large 6-foot fences. Though the lifeboats and life-saving equipment, whilst it's very good to see it, is very much in the way. I wonder if I walk along a bit I'll find a better spot. Anyhow, let's take a photo first on my phone camera, being it's the only opportunity so far I've had to do so. Nope, and not here, they do like blocking every available view. Yes, this is more like it, just this one tiny spot on the whole ferry with an uninterrupted view. If only I had found this earlier to get some nice pictures of Pascal Paoli, which you can now see over there, still in Bastia Harbour. Clearly, outside deck views are not a thing in Japan, where this vessel was purchased from. I did keep an eye out for any Japanese signs, symbols, or nameplates, but alas, I saw none. If you noticed any in the video, please let me know in the comments below. On the other side here of the vessel, it affords a great view over the citadel of Bastia. Something I did not really get to see on my short trip to Bastia, and certainly something to add for a future trip. This here is the very coastline where my train, Trenitalia, took me yesterday, which, if you've not seen the video yet, please go back and watch it on my channel, because it's one of the most stunning train rides I've ever done. There is certainly a lot of life-saving equipment here. It is all over the place. Oh well, maybe they're beer barrels, who knows. Time to enjoy the gorgeous sunrise just coming up over the island of Corsica. Now let's speed this up so you're not sitting there hanging about. As the ferry slips away from Corsica's craggy coastline, bathed in the soft glow of morning light, I wave a quiet goodbye, not just to land, but to a piece of France unlike any other. Though officially part of France since 1768, Corsica has always stood apart, fiercely proud of its unique identity, language and traditions. Its mountains rise sharply from the sea, sheltering hilltop villages and ancient trails, once walked by shepherds and revolutionaries alike. This island gave the world Napoleon Bonaparte, yet it feels untouched by time, where every cliff and cove holds echoes of both struggle and serenity. As the outline of Corsica fades into the mist, I bid farewell to France for this trip, and I'll see her again another time. Italy now beckons. In the distance here, we pass by the small but striking island of Gorgona, with its tiny harbour known as Gorgona Scalo. This rugged green island is the northernmost part of the Tuscan archipelago, and is unique in that it hosts an active prison colony. Access to the island, therefore, is strictly controlled. I love sticking the selfie stick through here for some action shots. And as you can see, this Japanese-built vessel is really building up some speed now. Now let's take a more in-depth look at the ship's dining options, starting here at the Dolce Vita, just like on the Pascal Lotta. The menu paused here for you to read easier is just exactly the same. We'll take a walk through now so you can see the ambience and facilities in the Dolce Vita restaurant, as you can see, packed full of hundreds of diners. Now I'm feeling a bit peckish again, so I'm going to grab another snack in the cafe. This time it's a pan au chocolat, washed down with a final pietra from Corsica. Price only €7.90. And so, cheers. Well, that snack was too small for me, so in order to try every food option, let's go and check out Yellow's and see what we can find here. And yes, this huge ciabatta, costing only €5, plus €3.50 for the Coca-Cola. This was certainly the most tasty eating option of the day, not that that's saying very much. A final look about Yellow's. Back up on the high deck outside, a Moby vessel is heading past. I believe this is the Moby Fantasy, which frequents the route from Livorno to Olbia in Sardinia. Now let's check out in some more detail the Lido Beach Bar. Besides selling ice creams, they sell anakaliki smoothies for €8 and alkaliki smoothies for €9. You do, however, have to overcome the hurdle of the bar being closed. And over there is a ferry with a name that sounds like Grimm, and that's a little clue to the next voyage we'll be going on my little adventure. This vessel, I believe, is Grimaldi Lines' Cruise Sardinia, which is Grimaldi's offering on the Livorno to Olbia route. And whilst I will not be going on this exact vessel or route, you've certainly got a treat in store of life on the Grimaldi in the next episode. Now remember, all Corsica Ferries vessels rotate between all of their routes, and on this floor here are the overnight cabins, which would be very important on the ship for the overnight sailings. Sadly, of course, I cannot show you one today, but presumably they are similar to those on the Pascal Lotta. Corsica Ferries is almost unique in ferry companies, in that they do not tell you which vessel you will be travelling when you make your booking. Another more in-depth look at the onboard shop, which as you can see, mostly sells confectionery, including M&M's, Toblerones and packets of Pringles. And a final view of the bar and games room, with its air hockey table and also lots of those machines behind that have cuddly toy grab handles. Back outside as we approach Italy, sadly the weather is really closing in. A pilot boat came to join us here, which I was doing my best to have a look around below to try and catch it on camera, but alas, I failed. I realised from my next expeditions on Italian ferries that these are a regular feature in Italian waters. A final look back at the Mediterranean to see the wake we have left behind us. Despite almost arriving into Livorno, at this point we were a good 45 minutes to 1 hour ahead of schedule. As we approach the port of Livorno, one of Tuscany's most important maritime gateways, the scene begins to shift from the open sea to the structured rhythm of the working harbour. The first thing we pass here is the long breakwater, stretching out into the sea, designed to shield the port from the strong winds and waves. It's a vital feature that keeps this bustling harbour running smoothly in all conditions. Just ahead stands the historic FINED di Pisani, Livorno's iconic lighthouse. Originally built in the 1300s by the Republic of Pisa and later reconstructed after World War II, it has guided countless ships safely to shore for centuries. As we sail by, it's hard not to appreciate its resilience and how it marks the symbolic entrance into Livorno. Behind it, there looks like there is some kind of large manufacturing yard for luxury yachts. I believe this company is called Azimut Benetti, and they are no doubt produced here, and you can see some of them are covered over for refurbishment. It reminds me a little bit of the Sunseeker yard back down in Paul in my video in November. However, this one is certainly on a larger scale and the yachts are bigger. Here you might notice a serene statue standing on the end of this breakwater. It appears to be a figure of the Madonna facing out towards the sea. It's a quiet but powerful presence, as if watching over arriving vessels, offering protection to them. At least one other white car ferry is dotted in there, nestled amongst the myriad of docks and channels, so somehow or another we're going to have to weave our way across there. I believe it is the Moby Dada, which is currently on lease to Algeria Ferries, and sails all the way from here in Livorno to Algiers. And now it makes sense, of course, why we arrived so early, because all of the gains were lost in traversing through this harbour. Just coming into view here is the elegant MSC Lyrica, which is in port today. This sleek, mid-sized cruise ship from MSC Cruises carries over 2,000 passengers and is a frequent visitor here to Livorno. And wow, look at the speed of that coach hurtling off. These coaches await the ships and then take the visitors on excursions out to Pisa, Florence and the rolling hills of Tuscany. Seeing it up close gives you a real sense of the scale and comfort modern cruise ships offer. It's like a floating city on its own, and a sharp contrast to this industrial grain port here in front. I love it also that you can clearly see the shadow of our own ferry's funnel steaming into the port. We pull along the quayside and ferry terminal, which gives me just enough time to do a quick summary of the positives and negatives of this ferry journey. And as you can hear in the background, the megaphones are playing classical music to celebrate her arrival. Starting with the positives then, it was a fast and easy journey to Italy, and it seemed to go by in no time. The ticket price was very cheap, costing only €29. And of course, because it's a ferry and not a flight, you could take as much luggage pretty much as you like, or as you could carry on by yourself. Moving on to the negatives, as you saw in the video, the ship was lacking on facilities, I thought, somewhat. The early departure time is also a bit prohibitive. It does of course give you most of the day in Italy, like it did to me today. However, I would like to have seen an overnight sailing. Apparently in summer these are offered to Genoa. And finally, as you will see in a moment, the transfer from the port to the railway station in Livorno is a very long walk, with most other French and Italian ports being easier and closer. Overall, however, though, all things considered, I didn't think it was too bad. And au revoir, or arrivederci, now we are in Italy. I head back down the escalator to leave the ship. And I must admit, these escalators are so much easier than anything on Brittany ferries or in Northern Europe. We are still a good hour ahead of schedule. And just stepping off the ship, this is the new one, a trailer on a trailer. No long lengthy wait times waiting for port transfer buses here because you're offloaded with the cargo. There is almost no signage telling you how to get out. With a final wave goodbye to the Mega Express 5, it was my first experience of the chaos of an Italian port. And welcome to Livorno, a vibrant port city on Italy's western coast in the Tuscany region. It's known for its rich maritime history, multicultural heritage and laid-back charm. Founded as a small fishing village, it grew into a major Mediterranean trading hub during the Renaissance under the Medici family. Today, Livorno features a unique blend of historic fortresses, canals reminiscent of Venice in the New Venice district, or Nuovo Venezia district, as seen here, and a bustling seafront promenade. It's also the gateway, of course, for the ferries to Corsica, Sardinia, and other destinations. It certainly has some rustic charm around here, and not many tourists, but at no point at all did I feel unsafe. A very pleasant place to visit. The big downside, however, I would rather not have happened, was that the journey from the port to the station is a whopping 3 kilometres, and whilst you can take a bus, the bus only picks you up around 1 kilometre into the route. I expect most sensible people would take a taxi. However, this is Carl's Travel Channel, and I don't take taxis, and I certainly do not take Ubers. Therefore, as my mother would say, it's always best to walk. I love these little bridges, and I can certainly see why they call it New Venice. Even though it's a bit off-piste, let's just walk over here for a quick picture and view. Wow, it looks very, very nice. On the other side of the canal here is the Fortezza Nuova, an old fortress put up in 1604. And like many Italian cities, it also has a Piazza della Repubblica, and in the middle of this one stands a statue of the Grand Duke Ferdinand III. After a bit of research online, I discovered that this building here, as I head up on the main road toward the station, is the Court of Livorno, a nice old historic municipal building. Fortunately, as I edge closer toward the station, the sea of motorbikes is replaced more by a sea of greenery and parkland. It's really quite pleasant in here and makes a welcome respite from the city, and I also thought it's quite unusual for there to be such a large park next to a railway station. Apparently it's called the Parco Pubblico della Stazione. To the left here is a poster, presumably advertising a local music act, and the Teatro Goldani Capotati. If you know who they are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's it, finally celebrated, completing probably the longest walk of this entire trip, the 3 kilometres from the port to the Stazione. Interesting of note ahead, there appears to be a water tower. I wonder if this was used back in the days of steam trains. And as is common in Italy, the usual sea of bikes and motorbikes chained outside. I finally arrive at the beautiful Livorno station building. Whilst the railways in this area were opened during the 19th century, this station building actually came later. Livorno Centrale opened on the 3rd of July 1910. Now let's go inside and buy a ticket, since this is the only train I didn't reserve one online for. Using the machine, probably a mistake as you'll find out, I press one way. It then offers you specific times of trains, which is very misleading, as you will find out, so I select here the 1:30 departure, €2.80 in standard. I press accept on the terms and conditions, which it turns out I should have read in full and triplicate, and press to pay by card. And there we are, all done. Ooh, it even talks to you.
Your card.
I head through the ticket hall and onto the platform. And note, looking around the room here, there are no validators for tickets, specifically designed as a tourist trap to catch people out. Oh, I think that might be one of the well-hidden validators directly ahead there on the wall. And here is the correct platform for my train to Pisa, C-L-E. I wonder what that means. Is it short for Centrale? I guess so. As is a common feature in Italy, one of the big double-decker trains passes through. As it said on the sign, do not go beyond the yellow line, because here comes the train. I notice also that these platforms are very low down, so I dread to think how one would cope if they had disability requirements. And wow, look at the state of this awful train, covered in graffiti. And the brakes certainly need some oil. It's called a Trenitalia Jazz apparently, but there's certainly nothing jazzy about this. The seats are comfortable, but legroom is not too good. There are sit-back power outlets, however. I suppose that's one small benefit. But wow, look at the state of this window, covered in graffiti. How on earth will I see out of here? The answer is, I wouldn't, so I moved, fortunately, to another seat. It was then, not long after this, that my trip planning and travel expertise had its first major failure. Since I had been used to buying my tickets online in apps across France, until now, over the past year, this was my first occasion purchasing a ticket at a railway station. And I had no idea that despite, as pointed out, it not stating on the machine or in the station, you must validate your ticket using the validation machines. This is even despite selecting a specific train departure from the machine, which I had wrongly assumed would cover me for this service, since this is how online tickets generally work. It's a shame really I did not capture this incident on video, since it would have made great YouTube material. However, I don't like filming others or officials. Anyhow, to cut chase to the story, when the ticket inspector arrived, he started complaining that the ticket had not been validated, and a fine of €60 would be issued, as long as it was paid immediately, or it would be more. So I thought it was best to pay it and move on. Certainly a great way of fleecing tourists. And with the way the Trenitalia staff were looking for tourists, it certainly felt like they were running some kind of scam. Whether this is true or not, I don't know. One other thing I have learned from this is try wherever possible not to use Trenitalia. An alternative to Trenitalia on Italy's major trunk routes is the private operator Italo, which operates a high-speed train network. I make a video on these from Rome to Naples, which I've already uploaded on my channel. Please give it a watch after this one. You will see it's considerably nicer inside than this. Since this incident, I have kept with the personal rule of only purchasing train tickets through apps. For Europe, I often use the train line, and I know they charge you the extra 50p to £1 booking fee, but at least then I know it has been reserved correctly, and you don't need to validate the tickets. Still, oh well, a few minutes to enjoy the countryside on this very short 20 minutes journey. We finally enter the approaches to Pisa Centrale station, with the walls and viaducts lined with much graffiti. Fortunately, I managed to recoup my €60 by cancelling a trip out to an island later on in my adventure. I will return to make more of a video at this station in the next episode, so don't worry, I've not simply forgotten to show you around it. And so we pull in to Pisa Centrale station, and a look around the predominantly pedestrianised square on the station forecourt, which is really rather nice. And, yes, you've guessed it, despite it being late January, there's yet another Christmas tree. The classic old station building here was opened in 1871. Whilst I could and probably should take a bus, I'm not risking any more fines, so I'm going to walk the 25 minutes or so from here to the final destination on today's video. Crossing here over the Ponte Solferino Bridge, the view is stunning. The Arno River stretches out ahead, lined with colourful buildings. The river divides the city into two halves, and just to my right is the beautiful Gothic church of Santa Maria della Spina, perched right on the riverbank, with its intricate stonework and delicate spires. And I made it to what I came all this way off route north to see, and a €60 fine later, of course. Yes, you've guessed it, it's to see a tower. And gosh, why is it leaning over like that? So here we are, outside the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Oh no, sorry, there's no pepperoni. So here we are, outside the Leaning Tower of Pisa, somewhere I've always wanted to visit. And after the fiasco on the train today, I'm certainly glad to have made it here. This Leaning Tower is really one of the most iconic landmarks in the world, famous for its unintended tilt that has captivated visitors for centuries. It was built as a bell tower for the nearby cathedral, and it was put up in the year 1173. However, it took over 200 years to complete fully. The tilt began early due to soft ground on one side, and despite numerous efforts to correct it, the lean has become its defining feature. Today, after a lot of engineering work for stabilisation, you could climb the 294 steps to the top, if you buy a ticket of course. The tickets are an extortionate €25, and there is not even any discount for children or senior citizens, at least over the age of 8. So alas, I will not be going up here today, since it definitely does not fit the ethos of Carl's Travel Channel and my budget trips. Next door are really the only other major attractions in Pisa, which sadly are also all ticketed, including here the cathedral, with its marble facade, put up in the 1300s. As you can see, there is random military vehicles here, positioned to protect the monuments. And the Musée dell'Opera del Duomo over the road. A little bit of information about it here on the sides, and it says that it was opened in 1986. The museum, of course, not the tower. Sadly, this is where my whistle-stop tour of Pisa must end, as next time I'll be taking yet another train from here to Civita Vecchia, or the Port of Rome, and another ferry to yet another exotic island. And with that, thank you for watching Carl's Travel Channel. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.